Good morning all, and welcome to those in attendance at the remote meeting of the local review body of Aberdeen City Council. Please note that the meeting will be recorded and published online for public access after the meeting. You're also reminded to note that we may have members of the public or press observing today's proceedings. Can I ask those who are observing today's meeting to keep their microphones and cameras switched off throughout? Can members of the local review body leave their cameras on but mute their microphone when not speaking? As the local review body contains quasi-judicial business, members are reminded that should not leave the meeting during consideration of any of the reviews. This meeting has been convened in response to 2 requests for a review of the decision taken by the appointed officer under the Council's scheme of delegation. Members of the local review body have before them copies of the review documents as listed in the notice calling the meeting. I will now ask Mrs McBain, the Assistant Clerk, to outline the procedure which is to be followed in the conduct of these reviews.
Thank you, Convener. Members have the procedure note which was circulated with the meeting papers and is intended to set out the wider framework within which the review process operates. The first task for the review body is to come to a decision on whether the review documents contain sufficient information for the case to be determined without further procedure, and by that it is meant without further information or representations. The regulations governing the local review process require that all matters which the applicant intends to raise in the review must be set out in or accompany the notice of review. The focus of the review should be on the basis of what was before the appointed officer when a decision was made, and only in exceptional circumstances will new or additional matters be permitted to be taken into account. The circumstances in which additional matters can be taken into account are set out in the legislation and will be addressed by the LRB's advisors where relevant. This review should take the form of a structured discussion led by the chairperson to consider the matter set out in the notice of review before you, and I would conclude by drawing your attention in particular to points 10 to 12 of the procedure note. I'll just go through the attendance for the recording. So for the first case, we've got Councillor McRae. Sorry.
Yep.
Councillor Alphonse.
Present.
Councillor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Parker.
Present.
Councillor Gregg.
Present.
Thank you. And then for the second case, Councillor Gregg will withdraw and will be replaced by Councillor Copeland. Okay, thank you, Convener.
Thank you very much. So turning to consideration of the first review in respect of a decision to refuse the application for detailed plan permission for the formation of a driveway to the front at 50 School Road, Aberdeen, which is planning reference number 250547. We'll now hear from the planning advisor in attendance, Ms Lucy Green, who will provide us with a brief description of the application proposal and a reminder of the reason why the application was refused. I would point out that Ms Green attends today's meeting to provide us with the necessary professional planning guidance because she has not been involved in the early consideration of the application under review. Ms Green will not, however, be asked to express any view on the merits of the proposed development, and in effect her role will be a neutral one involving the provision of factual information and guidance only. Ms Green, over to you.
Thank you. Morning, members. Just shared my presentation. So this is a request for a review against an application refused under delegated powers for the formation of a driveway at 50 School Drive, and the review was submitted with all the necessary information within the time limit following the decision of the appointed officer. The applicant has indicated that there are new matters raised within the review submissions, and I'll describe those later and give members the chance to decide whether to take those into account. In terms of the procedure, the applicant has expressed the view that the review may proceed without site visit. So I'll just provide some background information on the cases before handing back for members to decide how to proceed. So this is 50 School Drive. It's a ground floor flat in this block here on this side of the building. Within the wider area, King Street here to the west, School Avenue there. It's just a street view image of the property just here. So the proposed driveway would come out here. Location plan showing the property there and the garden area that goes with it. And then this is looking at the existing site and the proposed site. So you can see the two disabled parking bays that are referred to in the application. And then with the driveway here, 5.6 metres long and 3 metres wide. One of the disabled parking bays would need to be removed and this one would remain. A more detailed plan of the driveway there. The slope would actually be within the site, so there would be no need for drainage along the edge. And this area of garden would remain. There wouldn't be any impact on street trees. In terms of the new information submitted, this was a survey of parking within the area, and it's just been redacted there because of car number plates that were on it, but you can still sort of make sense of this because the blue is parking by a blue badge holder, and green is when the space was empty, and then pink is parking by someone without a blue badge. So for example, on the 29th of July there was a blue badge holder in the west disabled bay and the other one was empty, etc. So I'll just go through the reasons for refusal before we look at the new information and whether to take it into account. So the reason for refusal was that the proposed formation of the driveway to the front garden of a tenement flat would further reduce the overall availability and makeup of on-street parking adjacent to the building for other residents on the street, and is thus contrary to Aberdeen planning guidance on transport and accessibility, and also policy T3 on parking in the local development plan. Additionally, given the site-specific context, the proposal would prove a significant detriment to local amenity, as the removal of an on-street parking space would further reduce an existing limited availability of parking spaces for adjacent residents, and therefore be contrary to policy H1 residential areas in the LDP and the APG householder development guide. So for the applicant, there are several points made. They make the point that the refusal was based on the loss of a disabled space, and so they therefore carried out a survey of the use of the disabled spaces, and that showed it was used almost solely by one car, and that car can park in other disabled bays close by. School Drive has 13 disabled bays, 12 of which would remain, which is an ample provision. And the survey shows frequent use by non-disabled badge holders. The point that the council's own roads team raised no objections, and the proposal meets all technical, design and amenity standards. And finally, that the neighbours and community council raised no objections, and the driveway would free up on-street space, improving traffic flow on a narrow road. And I've just put on this slide the Roads DM team response. So they state that the site is located in the outer city, out with any controlled parking zones, and that the proposed drive is appropriately sized and the footway crossing shown is acceptable. They say that the disabled bay would be burned off the street as part of the works to drop the curb if the application is approved. In terms of the APG on transport and accessibility, that states that consent will not normally be granted for parking in garden areas in front of tenement flats. However, the roads team state that as there are numerous cases of that at present, the proposal doesn't create a net detriment. They state that the proposed fence is acceptable in height in terms of visibility, and that the driveway, if the driveway is to slope towards the footway, a drainage channel should be installed. So that's not necessary because the driveway doesn't slope towards the footway. Seaton and Linksfield Community Council, there were no comments received, and there was one representation which indicated support but noted that the proposed driveway and street alterations should not extend into the existing on-street parking area immediately to the west of the property. So at this point I'll hand back to you, convener, and I'll just move on to the next slide, consideration of new matters, and just hand over to legal to run through those considerations.
A new matter is any information or evidence that was not before the planning officer when they made their decision. The legislation is clear that a party can raise a new matter in an LRB only if the new matter could not have been raised before the decision was made, or that it's not being raised before that time was a consequence of exceptional circumstances. It is for the party who wants to raise a new matter in an LRB to explain in their submissions why the new matter meets the criteria that I've just mentioned, and provide any supporting documents or evidence. The LRB should then decide whether to accept or reject the new matter. If the LRB accepts the new matter, it will consider it along with the other information and evidence in the review. If the LRB rejects the new matter, it will not take the matter into account in the review. We'll now hand back to the LRB for members to have a discussion on whether they are satisfied that they have been provided with the information to conclude that the above mentioned criteria has been met in order for the LRB to take the new matters into account in the determination of the review.
Thank you very much, members. Just quickly go around the room in relation to the new items that have been raised to see if we're happy to take these into account. Councillor Clark.
Sorry, I'm happy to take these.
Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Clark. But
I know somehow it keeps cutting out. Sorry, folks. I'm happy to go ahead and hear with the new evidence.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Alphonse.
Yes, likewise, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Gregg.
Yes, content.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thacker.
Yeah, I agree with others.
Okay, thank you very much. I am also happy to take us in, so that's unanimous, and we'll pass back to Ms Green to take us through the rest of the presentation.
Thanks. Sorry, you would also need to just confirm that you're content to proceed without a site visit at this point before I go through the policies.
Yep, we will do. So therefore, we now need to consider we'll have sufficient information for us to take a decision on the application. Members, reminder, if you do not feel you have enough information to take a decision, we can request further written information to be provided, hearings to be arranged, or a site visit to be undertaken. At the moment, I'm content with the information we have to proceed, but we'll go around the room to confirm this. Councillor Clark.
I feel we've enough information to proceed.
Thank you very much. Councillor Alphonse.
I agree.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gregg.
Agree.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thacker.
Agree.
Thank you very much. As we feel we have sufficient information today, we'll now pass back to Ms Green, who will take us through the relevant policies and considerations for the review.
Thanks. Okay, so turning to the policies, within the National Planning Framework 4, NPF 4, the following policies are relevant. Policy 1 on tackling climate and nature crises, and Policy 2 on climate mitigation. As we know, those policies apply to every proposal and decision. Decisions should be taken through the lens of the climate and nature crisis, recognising that some are of a scale that don't make a significant impact. So as for design and quality homes policies, I'll cover those on following slides. And the policies in the local development plan that are relevant. Policy D1 on quality placemaking, on policy H1 residential areas, which is the zoning policy for this site, and policy D3 on parking. Also the householder development guide and transport and accessibility. In terms of the householder development guide, that has a few general criteria, and the most relevant ones are that proposals should be architecturally compatible in scale and design, and in terms of overdevelopment there should be no more than 50% of the curtilage used. So this proposal would be slightly over that figure, however it was not used as a reason for refusal. So just moving on to look at policies for residential areas and homes within the local development plan and NPF 4. So policy H1, the zoning policy, that states that proposals will be approved in principle if they do not constitute overdevelopment and do not have an adverse impact on residential amenity and the character and appearance of an area, and do not result in the loss of open space, which this one doesn't. And policy 16 and NPF 4, household development proposals will be supported where they don't have a detrimental impact on the character and environmental quality of the home and the surrounding area in terms of size, design and materials, and also do not have a detrimental impact on neighbouring properties in terms of their physical impact, overshadowing or overlooking. The parking policy in the LDP, there's a section of that I've just put on this slide, which is that proposals for car parking that are not directly related to new developments will not be supported. And looking at the transport APG, which is referred to in the report and the roads comments, where the creation of a driveway with one parking space would lead to the loss of an on-street parking space, then the driveway permission would not generally be granted due to the loss of amenity space for all residents on the street. And then it further states that where the building's in multiple ownership, the formation of an access driveway for one or more owners should not result in any of the remaining owners having no opportunity to park in the street adjacent to their property. And also, consent will not normally be granted for parking in garden areas in front of tenement flats, as stated in the roads response. And just finally, to look at design policies. So there's the general statement to ensure high standards of design to create a strong and distinctive sense of place in, as a result of context appraisal, and also the 6 qualities of successful spaces, including being connected, supporting well-connected networks and reducing car dependency, and then looking at pedestrian experience. So finally, just a reminder of the primacy of the development plan, with all applications being determined in accordance with its policies unless material consideration indicate otherwise, and each application being treated on its merits. So in this particular case, the issues for consideration are residential amenity, and the impact on the character and appearance of the dwelling and the area, and the removal of on-street parking to create the driveway. And overall, does the proposal comply with the development plan as a whole, or are there material considerations weighing against? And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any members have any questions? Not seeing any hands at this time. Okie dokie. So in accordance with the procedural note circulated, the local review body will now discuss and decide the matter in which review is to proceed. I would highlight that all representations relating to the case have been considered and taken into account. determination, members? Happy to open the floor. I'll begin. Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, convener. I would be content to support the original decision by officers. I think that policy T3 on car parking is quite clear that there is a presumption against the creation of new driveway spaces. It is a tenemented area. It's quite a densely populated area, and there is very limited parking availability. So I think that the loss of on-street parking would adversely affect residential amenity. And there's also the point about quality placemaking, the loss of open space, and the loss of car parking services, I think, is not welcome in this case.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Alphonse.
Thank you, convener. I just wondered how many spaces disabled driveways are, no, not disabled, how many driveways are there in that stretch of road again?
Looking at various mapping and what were presented there, it does seem that there is a number of driveways within garden spaces around this area. It's obviously, we're going down the line of the character and appearance and the removal of the disabled space out to front. Although the applicant has noted to ourselves that there would be a reduction from 13 down to 12. So yeah, there will still be that provision in there. It's more about the removal of this
space.
Of this space, and obviously the parking aspect of the wider area.
But it is a disabled space meantime anyway. So
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that's one thing that the applicant has sent us in relation to the chart showing the use of that. So that was the additional information that we have taken into account to discuss there. Anyone else wish to come in?
Thank you. Thank you.
I think in relation to the character and appearance of the property, like Councillor Alphonse has led on to there is a number of other driveways in this area. So yeah, it is basically within our hands of, do we uphold the officer's recommendations on the basis of the loss of that disabled space and the wider parking arrangements in that area, or are we happy to move otherwise? Councillor Gregg, do you want to come back in on any of these points, or are you happy to go to the determination?
I think I'm confident in the position that I've expressed, and I would want to stay with that. I think it is it does seem slightly unusual to have such a high proportion of disabled spaces in that section, in that street. But I don't think that's really a compelling issue for the key point about applying policy T3 on car parking, adverse impact on residential amenity, and the point about quality placemaking. So I'd be sticking with the position that I've got.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
Yes, convener. I've been looking at the photographs in depth that's there. Would the person that's wanting the driveway own any of this disabled bays, or would they not?
I think we probably need to take Lucy back in to clarify that point if you want.
Yeah, please.
It's stated in the submissions that the disabled space was put in place for a former tenant, not the applicant.
Okay, so the former tenant wouldn't be there now, so that disabled bay wouldn't be being used.
Well, it's I believe that disabled bays are for communal use. You know, anyone with a blue badge can just use them.
Yeah.
So it's not directly
Okay.
related.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Okay, members, are we happy to go to determination? Seeing nodding heads. Okay, thank you very much. I'm sort of with yourself in this one, Councillor Grigg. I think the removal of disabled space, knowing the area and the amount of requirement for disabled spaces in that area would remain quite high. Therefore, I'm content to uphold officers' recommendations on this one and go from there. Councillor Grigg, happy to support.
Good, yes.
Thank you very much. We'll quickly go around the room. Councillor Clark.
I'm happy to go with yourselves here.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Alphonse.
And myself, I'm happy to support.
Thank you very much, Councillor Facker.
Likewise.
Thank you very much. Therefore, the local review body has therefore agreed to unanimously uphold decision of the appointed officer, and the application is therefore refused. Thank you very much, members. The decision will be sent out from the planning advisors to the applicant in the next forthcoming days. Councillor Grigg, I understand you're dropping out now. Thank you very much for your attendance this morning. And we will call in Councillor Copeland. Here he is. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So a turn consideration of the second review in respect of the decision to refuse the application for detailed plan permission for the straightening of both hipped gables, erection of two-storey extension with balcony to rear, and erection of a replacement garage. This is at 20 West Home Avenue, Aberdeen, planning reference 250516. We'll again hear from the planning advisor in attendance, Ms. Lucy Green, who will provide us with a brief description of the application proposal and a reminder of why the application was refused. As Councillor Copeland has joined us, we point out today Ms. Green's attendance to provide us with the necessary professional planning guidance because she's not been involved in consideration of the application under review. Ms. Green will not, however, be asked to express any view in the merits of proposed application, and in effect, her role will be a neutral one involving provision of factual information and guidance only. Ms. Green, over to you.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen again. Okay, this review follows a request. Sorry? Have I got? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Is it background noise from here? Possibly. Right, I'll carry on, but let me know if there's noise in the background and I'll try and stop that. Yes, the review is against a refusal of the straightening of both hipped gables and erection of two-storey extension and a balcony to the rear, as well as the erection of the replacement garage and extension. And the applicant has indicated on the notice of review that there are no new matters been raised in the review submissions. In terms of procedure, the applicant has expressed the view that a site visit should take place and that the review should not proceed on the basis of the information submitted. So I'll provide some background to the case before handing back to members to decide how to proceed. So this is the location plan and site plan for the property on West Home Avenue. You can see there, Angersfield Avenue runs parallel to the back of it, and North Burn of Rubislaw at the end there. So just look at a 3D Google image of the site. It's this one here. And then front of the house just here with the side garage as existing. And this is a block plan of the site with that's the footprint of the extensions. And then the front elevation, this is as existing and as proposed. So the proposal involves straightening both hips to each side to create gables on each side of the house, with a 2-storey extension across the full width of the rear, a replacement garage and extension to the side. They'd be built up in natural granite blockwork to the chimney, the top there, with granite capping. The roof would be slate to match the existing, and rough cast off-white to the garage, with black aluminium hopper and rainwater pipe and smooth render base courses. Just a moment, I'm just going to see if I can reduce the background noise a bit. Okay, hopefully that's a bit better. Right, so this is the rear elevation of the proposal. The existing rear elevation is just, and that's just here. So you can see that this is elevated in white fibre cement panels with black aluminium sliding doors. This part of the roof would be in natural slate to match the existing. And this is the rear of the replacement garage extension to the side. And these are the Juliet balconies that are referred to, which are where you have inward opening doors. It's not a balcony that extends outward. So just looking at the side elevations. This is the side elevation as existing with the garage there, and then as proposed. So this is a gable built up out of granite to match the existing, and then the rear elevation. The rear extension, sorry, the roof would be in black standing seam panels, and then the garage would be rebuilt with granite blockwork to the side elevation and rough cast above, and a couple of roof lights installed as well. The other side elevation would also be the black sanding seam panels, and you can see that the existing window has been partially blocked up with a new window installed. And this is the front of the house, so there's no change to the dormer there. Sorry, I think we've looked at that elevation. So these are the plans as existing and as proposed. And I've just tried to match the sizes there, just by eye though. But that's the existing house, the original house. See, so there's an existing extension in this corner, which would be here. And then the garage is approximately the same size, and the extension across the full width, and it extends out by 4 meters from the wall of the original house, and 14.19 across. And then at the upper level, so that's the existing first floor and as proposed first floor level. Cross section through the rear extension. So you can see the straightened hips. And then there's this flat roof section on top of the extension, which is at the height of the ridge. And a roof plan. So this is the front of the house with the existing front dormer. The ridge would be approximately here, and then the flat roof of the extension would come off that. And the new roof lights would have self-cleaning glass. And this is a cross section through the garage. There was some comments from the neighbour at number 18. So this is the application property, and this is number 18. And they've just indicated the relationship here. So it would be from the garage 1.756 metres to the existing house, and then 4.475 to the kitchen extension. So that's to that point, it's that distance they're talking about. There's also a shed there within the neighbour's garden. So reasons for refusal. The proposed hip to gable extensions of the dwelling, which is sited within a long line of relatively unaltered, traditionally designed mid-20th century granite 1.5-storey hip roof dwellings, would introduce an overwhelming and dominating scale and roof form that would contrast significantly with the prevailing character of the streetscape on West Ham Avenue. And also that the proposed development would therefore have an adverse impact on the character and appearance of both the application dwelling and the surrounding area, and is therefore contrary to policies 14 on design, quality and place, and 16 on quality homes in NPF 4, policies D1 on quality placemaking, and H1 residential areas in the LDP, and also the APG Householder Development Guide. So the applicant's case, they summarise why the proposal complies with NPF 4, the LDP and the design guidance for the following reasons. The proposal is sympathetic with the existing house through careful design of similar scale, and it integrates with the existing and does not overwhelm the existing house. In terms of context, West Ham Avenue contains a number of house types. Many are altered and extended over time, and so the proposal would not be incongruous. They state that there's no unacceptable impact on the neighbour on the neighbours in terms of privacy, overshadowing and appropriate separation, that it's not listed or within a conservation area. The statement also contains photographs of properties on the street and in the area, for example at 23 Angusfield Avenue. They describe how the extension is needed to accommodate the family within the community that they currently are part of. That the materials are clearly different, but they're complementary. They have a complementary distinction. The report of handling also confirms the garage is appropriate within the area. Another point made is that the dormer to the front would remain. And finally, that the report of handling confirms no impact on privacy, sunlight, daylight, and there's not overdevelopment of the plot, nor is there loss of public open space. So also to mention, in terms of consultations, the Queen's Cross and Hollow Community Council sent no comments, and there's one objection, which is from number 18, which makes several points. Firstly, that the treatment of the mutual granite boundary is unclear. Secondly, the south-facing first floor roof light would impact on the privacy of the neighbouring property and the rear garden, as well as its north-facing ground floor kitchen window. The third point is that the massing of the proposal would impact on the daylight receipt of the neighbouring property. Fourthly, that the proposed use of granite gables in place of the current hipped slated sides to the gables is in conflict with all other properties on the street. Fifthly, the proposed hip to gable extension would set an unwelcome precedent for the street, and the resulting massing and contemporary blockwork would create a significant impact on the character and amenity of the property. The sixth point is that the proposed black standing seam panels and off-white fibre cement board to the rear extension would not be consistent with other properties in the street. And finally, that the proposed rear windows and Juliet balcony would be detrimental to amenity and privacy in the neighbour's garden. So with that, I will hand back to members to decide how to proceed.
You consider whether we have sufficient information in front of us to take a decision on the application. Members, reminder, if you do not feel you have enough information to take a decision.
Can't hear you, Kieran, sorry.
Hear me now?
That's a bit better.
There we go. So
That's it.
sorry about that. So we now need to consider whether we have sufficient information in front of us today to take a decision on the application. Members, reminder, if you do not feel you have enough information to take a decision, you can request a further written information to be provided, hearings to be arranged, or a site visit to be undertaken. At the moment, I'm content to proceed given the information we have got, but we'll quickly go around the room. Councillor Copeland.
Yeah, proceed.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark.
I'm happy to proceed if enough information.
Thank you very much. Councillor Font.
Happy to proceed.
Thank you. Councillor Thacker.
Also happy to proceed.
That's great. So as members feel we'll have sufficient information to proceed, we'll now hear from Ms Green on the relevant policies and considerations for us review.
Thank you. I'll continue and go over the policies that are relevant. So these are the relevant policies within NPF 4, tackling the climate and nature crises and climate mitigation. As I mentioned before, they're overarching and relevant to every application, whilst taking into account the scale of the proposal. And policies 14 and 16 I'll cover on following slides. So policy 16 relating to quality homes, householder development proposals will be supported where they don't have a detrimental impact on the character and environmental quality of the home and the surrounding area, with relevant considerations being size, design and materials. And secondly, that they do not have a detrimental impact on neighbouring properties in terms of their physical impact, overshadowing or overlooking. And then looking at design policy 14, that refers to the 6 qualities of successful places. Those being that they're healthy, pleasant, connected, then distinctive, which would be relevant in terms of the details of the design, the style and materials, that they should be sustainable and also adaptable. So looking at the long-term value of buildings and spaces and allowing for flexibility so that they can meet the changing needs of different users over time. So I'll just move on to the LDP policies and the sites within a residential area, so zoned under policy H1, which I'll cover in a minute. And then also relevant are policy D1 on quality placemaking, D2 on amenity and the householder design guide, as well as the materials APG. So policy H1 is fairly similar to policy 16 and NPF 4 in that proposals for new householder development would be approved in principle if they do not constitute overdevelopment, they don't have an unacceptable impact on the character and amenity of the surrounding area. They don't result in the loss of valued public open space, and they comply with supplementary guidance. So that would be the householder guide and the materials APG in this case. So the relevant points in the householder design guide, firstly, design compatibility with the context of the area in terms of the design, scale and materials. Also that they should not overwhelm or dominate the original dwelling and should be visually subservient. In terms of amenity, there would be consideration of the impact on neighbours, privacy, daylighting, sunlighting, etc. It states that historic examples do not justify a proposal. In terms of site coverage, no more than 50% of the site should be covered, and the footprint should be not more than twice the original dwelling. And finally, in terms of hipped roofs, I've just put the section in there. So what it says is that modifying only one half of a hipped roof is likely to result in a roof having an unbalanced appearance. The report of handling talks about that in relation to the street, as this is obviously not a semi-detached house. Policy D2 on amenity. That seeks to ensure that new development delivers adequate levels of amenity for occupiers and neighbours, so in terms of privacy, sunlight, daylight and outlook. So moving on to the evaluation, just a reminder of the primacy of the development plan, with all applications being determined in accordance with its policies unless material considerations indicate otherwise, and each application on its merits. So for this particular decision, the acceptability of the proposal in terms of its impact on the street. Does it comply with the zoning policy H1? And how would it affect the character and amenity of the area and also of the neighbours? Does it comply with the development plan as a whole, or other material considerations weighing for or against? And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. The notes provided by the applicant states that there's a number of house types along the street, with one or two of those being turned or have taken the hip gabling and have extended through the back. Just wonder if we maybe comment on that at all.
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of photographs within that statement in the agenda. I can go to the street on Google Maps, if that's helpful, and can just look at it on Street View. Let me just share. Got Street View on the wrong screen. There's different.
That's great. Thank you very much, Councillor Alphonse.
Thank you, convener. Just wondered, Lucy, can we have a look at the panelling at the side of the proposed extension and up on the roof? Is that possible?
Yes, I can go back to that slide. Just so that's on the rear elevation. This is the white cement.
Yeah.
And Let me just move to. And that would be the, so this
Black.
would be, yeah, this would be granite on the
Yeah.
side, on the gable, but and this would be the black standing seam panels.
Yeah. I didn't see any of that paneling on any of the other houses in that street. I just think it sometimes it looks really industrial. And I don't know if that's the, so it's from ceiling to, it's from the roof right to the ground.
Yes.
And that couldn't be done in granite the bottom half and then slate on the top.
I mean, it could, but we need to just look at the proposal in front of us.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. Thank you. That answers my question. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any further questions, members? No hands at this time. Okay, thank you very much. So in accordance with the procedural note circulated, local review body will now discuss and decide the manner in which reviews proceed. I would highlight that all representations relating to the case have been considered and taken into account. Determination, members. At the moment, where I'm coming from in terms of policy D1 quality placemaking, quality and policy D2 in terms of amenity, I've had a look through the images and the applicant's pack as well, and I do note that there is already precedent within this area along the street and within the neighbouring streets of gabled or hipped housing being modified, although we do need to take this one into account of its own merits. So we need to discuss in relation to H1 of impact on the street. And I do note there is a number of styles, including a property that has been further modified along the street as well to similar requests of what this one is being applied for. So I'm happy for folk to come in if they want to discuss on this one to see where we're going. Yeah. Councillor Copeland.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. I would be happy to overturn the officer's decision on this one. As you've said, there is other properties that got similar things. If it'd been a semi-detached and only one side being done, I would have looked at a place, because it's a detached property. And I think Councillor Alphonse's concerns about the build, all that will be at the back of the house and not visible from the road. So as such, I'm quite happy to overturn the officer. I think it has merit, let me put it that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Facker.
Yeah, I'm really in agreement as well. There's quite a lot of variety on the street already, and I think the development to the rear is very sympathetic and modest, and would increase the utility of the property for family use, which I think is a useful benefit.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was certainly being in agreement with those points. I'm quite comfortable in relation to policy H1 of impact on street, with the extension being primarily to the back, and it's also allowing for enhanced use of the property as well to keep that family within that confines of the property and allow them to sort of use that for future use. So therefore, I would be content to overturn as well. But we'll quickly go through the room and see how everyone's feeling. So, Councillor Clark.
I totally agree with yourself here.
Thank you very much, Councillor Alphonse.
Happy to overturn.
Okay, thank you very much. Therefore, the local review body has therefore agreed to unanimously overturn the decision of the appointed officer. We now need to consider when any further conditions should be attached to the approval of the application. Do members have any further conditions to attach to this? We'll take Lucy back in to see if there is anything further to add.
I would only add the point that's made in the report of handling about the granite and matching that up with existing. Could attach a condition that requested details of that, possibly samples, but certainly details to show that it would match.
Yeah, I'm quite content for that to be taken in. Councillor Copeland is also mentioning regarding the granite wall and the garage. Councillor Copeland, do you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I mean, should we be conditioning the adjoining wall, which forms part of the garage here, it would need to be marked in for the extension part as well. Is that right? That is the adjoining wall, isn't it? The garage wall.
Yeah, I think the wall, the boundary wall would remain, but and the garage wall, yes, would be granite block as well. So could put that into the same condition.
Thank you.
Okay, members, thank you very much. Now that LRB has taken decision, the applicant or agent will be updated in the forthcoming days with all the reviews of today's meeting. Members, that draws us to a close. Thank you very much for your today's attendance and have a good day. Thank you very much.